Hello, I'm Brian Rosecrans, Sales Training Manager for Airway Management. We put together a little video that highlights some of the best practices when performing the TaperGuard field demo. Many adults are visual learners, and in fact, 90% of all adults have at least some visual component to their learning style. So as we continue to educate the market around microaspiration, around the current barrel-shaped cuff technologies, it's essential that we both show this principle to our clinicians as well as talk about it. So without further delay, let's go ahead and perform the TaperGuard field demo.
Just observe in this section, and I'll give you step-by-step instruction in the next segment.
Let me start by emphasizing that the demo is used to illustrate the principle of microaspiration that occurs in the current cuff technology. We know that this principle of folds and channels that exist in current endotracheal tube cuffs has been proven in the literature, and it's been proven in video bronchoscopy done in actual human patients. The Mallinckrodt taper-shaped cuff technology has also been proven to reduce and eliminate these folds and channels in both in vivo and in vitro. And we know that if we can reduce and eliminate those microchannels from forming, that we can reduce microaspiration from occurring. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm doing in this demonstration to maximize its visual impact. All right, so first we need to inflate these cuffs, and we'll inflate them both to make sure that the cuff material itself isn't stuck to the lumen of the endotracheal tube, especially after you remove it from the packaging. Then we'll move to insertion. Now the issue when we go to place this in the acrylic model is that if we go too low, the actual tube itself puts all the pressure on one side of that cuff, and so it doesn't inflate symmetrically, and that can reduce the sealing performance of the model. Same thing can occur if we place it too high. So there is a sweet spot within that acrylic model where the tube lays directly in the center of the model. And this is important because that's how it lays in the human body. In the human body, PVC is warmed, it's much less rigid, and the vocal cords themselves will actually help hold that lumen in the center of the trachea. Now, to reduce the pressure that the ET tube makes on this side of the cuff, it's been determined that inflating the cuff so that there exists a distance of 5 centimeters from the top of the cuff to the top of the model is ideal. Now, our marketing friends in Japan found this distance through painstaking trial and error, and an ideal area to inflate the cuff is where that cuff first contacts that tracheal model, and making sure that this distance is 5 centimeters from the top to here. So in Japan, they actually mark this line on all their models, and then this also gives us a nice visual comparison between the two cuffs. TaperGuard creates an effective fluid seal in human patients because it's designed to fit the shape of the human trachea. The trachea is compliant, moist, and the act of inflation actually moves the cuff into position. In the acrylic model, the PVC cuff material can actually stick to the acrylic, creating wrinkles that don't occur in the human trachea. In order to simulate the cuff shape that would exist in a human trachea, it's very important to overinflate the cuff and then slowly back down to a clinically acceptable cuff pressure. Now I'm going to perform the TaperGuard field demo again, and I'm going to walk you through the steps. So the first steps, I'm going to pull out our tubes, and I'm going to pre-inflate the cuffs to make sure the cuff material is not stuck to the lumens. And then I'm going to deflate them. I'm going to do the same thing with the TaperGuard. Open inflate, deflate. Then I'm going to place the high-low tube first, and I'm going to try to get the cuff depth about 5 centimeters from the top of the model. And I'm going to overinflate, and then I'm going to slowly back off to 30 centimeters of water pressure. And then, since you only have one manometer, this is what I suggest you do. Do the high-low cuff first and remove it, and then we're going to inflate the TaperGuard cuff to 5 centimeters of depth in the tube, and we're going to leave the manometer on. And the reason why we're doing this is because when you remove the manometer on the TaperGuard cuff, you're going to lose about 8 centimeters of water pressure, where you don't lose that much in the high-low. And then we're going to go ahead and add our fluid. And there you go. So now, so you don't think that I have any inside techniques or tricks that I've been using, I'm going to invite Mark Franson, who is one of our other sales training managers. He's going to perform the demo for you, and I'm going to narrate. So he's received the same amount of instruction that you have so far in this demo. And with that, take it away, Mark. First, he's going to remove the ET tubes from the packaging, and he's going to overinflate the cuff to make sure that the cuff's not sticking to the lumen of the tube. And then he's going to deflate. Now he's going to place the tube approximately 5 centimeters in depth from the top of the cylinder. He's going to overinflate the cuff again to make sure it's not sticking to the acrylic. And then he's going to slowly back off to about 30 centimeters of water pressure. Excellent. Now he's going to move on to the TaperGuard tube. Same scenario. He's going to inflate the cuff to make sure the cuff material is not stuck. And then he's going to deflate the cuff. And he's going to place the tube approximately 5 centimeters in depth into the acrylic trachea. Overinflate the cuff and slowly back down to a clinically acceptable cuff pressure. And he's going to leave the manometer on this time at 30 centimeters of water pressure. And go ahead and add your subglottic secretions. An effective TaperGuard demo is really that simple. There's one last point that I would like to make, however. I've been using size 7.0 tubes today, and the demo works very well with TaperGuard Basic sizes 7.0, 7.5, and 8.0. It also works well with TaperGuard EVAC sizes 7.0 and 7.5. Size 8.0 TaperGuard EVAC doesn't seem to demo as well, so I think I would avoid using that size in the demo. Current high-volume, low-pressure cuffs have failed to demonstrate an effective fluid seal both in vitro and in vivo. TaperGuard has demonstrated an effective fluid seal in vitro and in vivo. As we discussed earlier, 90% of adults' primary learning style is visual. The TaperGuard field demo provides a visual means of demonstrating the difference in fluid sealing characteristics between these cuff technologies.